little different format today. We're outside for once, and we're dealing with something that's not a pressurized gas appliance. So this is like almost an illegal video here on this channel. But nonetheless, I came across a Aladdin Blue Flame heater. I've always wanted one of these, but they've been, for me, hard to find for the right price where I wanted to get them. Yeah, you can get them on eBay for hundreds of dollars plus shipping, and then you got to deal with all that. I found one locally here. Locally, I mean about an hour away at an antique show out in Round Top, Texas. So I got it. Everything looks really in pretty good shape on it. It does need a new wick, for which I've got a replacement here, and we'll be replacing that. I'll go through a little bit of a story on here. Basically, these function as heaters, and these tops remove, and you can actually set a kettle on top. It's got raised parts here where it will actually heat a kettle, so you can use this as a cooker, also with it being a heater. So that's kind of interesting. And then it just basically kind of bayonets back on there. To get into these is really simple. You pull the catch here, and the whole top just flips right over. This one's got some surface dirt on it, which I'll clean up, but for right now, I'm probably just going to kind of get in here and do a little change out with this. Now, when I first got this, the wick would not go up and down at all. Everything was completely frozen, and I found two things work really good for kerosene, and those two things are denatured alcohol and heat. So when the wick was frozen up, what I did is I basically heated around here, because that's where all the pressure is applied to the wick to keep the flame and anything else from traveling back down into the fount below. And this is where they get gummed up. Not only that, but flame spreader here was gummed up. So if any of you have Aladdin lamps, this is basically like a giant Aladdin lamp. It just doesn't have the mantle on the top of it. But if it did, boy, what a light it would throw, huh? So anyway, they really run on the same kind of principle. This one's got a little bit of cleanup, but I'm gonna go ahead and just pull this apart and get this wick out. The next trick for getting this out was the burner basket was pretty much frozen in place. And so again, a little bit of heat. When it did actually try to light, I ran it for a bit to get some heat into it. I also shot PB Blaster around this, because this basically screws in like with a half a turn or a quarter turn, not even a quarter, maybe like an eighth of a turn, just a little bit. And if your wick is frozen, if the wick doesn't move, that's gonna not permit this basket to turn either. So once you can get the wick moving, you're home free, because then it's just probably a matter of getting some penetrating oil down into these threads down here, and then maybe getting this warm enough so it'll stay, that gummy kerosene will stay a little bit soft while you try to rotate it for the first time, and then you can get in there and clean it off. But once you do that, it lifts straight off, and you can see some of the kerosene residue. It's pretty old, it's pretty smelly. So yeah, we definitely know that's old. So now you can see the exposed wick. This has Aladdin England on it, so it looks like it's a reasonably old one. To get these off is pretty easy. This wick is already at its maximum height, so they have little buttons on the side. So I'm just going to move these arms off of those. There's one on each side. So once those arms are moved off of those, you can kind of start wiggling the wick around, and it'll start coming up like it's doing here. And this is also definitely a good reason to be working outside, because this is old, smelly, and nasty kerosene. But that's the old wick. It doesn't have the nice sliding liner like the new ones do, but that's it right there. I guess I'm probably holding it too low. But anyway, so that's the old wick, which we won't be keeping. Oh, I can see what happened. It looks like the liner came off in here and is yeah, it's completely stuck onto this. So that's probably also why this, even though the wick was moving, it was moving difficultly because that liner had delaminated and was stuck on the inside of this tube here. So I need to go get some cleaning supplies. I ran this for a bit with that old kerosene just to minimize the amount that I had to dump in it. But yeah, so that's definitely something you don't want to see. So once this is done, everything should adjust up and down a whole lot nicer than it was, because it was kind of really struggling and really fighting me. So anyway, hang on, we'll be back. And magically supplies appear. All right, so what I'm going to do is this denatured alcohol is what I want to use. One other thing about this that makes these really easy to work on is that there's only 4 of these little acorn head nuts that hold the fount onto the frame. So just for ease of getting to things, I'm going to go ahead and remove those, so that way I can clean around it a little easier. Oh man, it'll be good to get this old kerosene out of here, because it really pretty much reeks. Okay. Try not to block the shot here, but it's the only way that I can get to it. So I'm going to do this, and then this should just lift right off. There we go. So none of that stuff we have to worry about right here, but we do have to worry about this right here. So I'm going to, yeah, this stuff is really bad looking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump that off into a container for disposal. So there we go, one more time. And more supplies appear. Okay, so I will probably end up using this kerosene for starting my brush fires later, so I don't really want to throw it away, because even though it is nasty, it still burns, so it still is useful. So we're just going to go ahead and decant it off into here so we can use it later. But I always thought that there would be a reason for hanging on to these old Coleman gallon jugs, and turns out there is, right? So let's see how nasty this stuff is. Oh yeah, it's pretty yellow. All right, get all those chunks of junk out of there. Not too much trash in the bottom of it, but I did bring this out here so we could take a look at the color, what it looked like. So it's a pretty pretty sickly shade here of kind of a yellow-green, weird-looking color there. So there may be a little bit of water that was in there, and there may be some, if that fount is brass, which it kind of looks like it might be, it can pick up a little bit of the copper from that. So anyway, enough of that. Seal this up, set it aside. Got quite a bit of dust and debris. It looked like it had sat in the mud, which was my initial concern about this thing, is that it may have holes, but it doesn't, because it actually held fuel the entire time I had it, and I haven't seen any evidence of anything leaking. So yeah, it's just kind of a little bit dusty and dirty. Normally I'd spend a little bit more time trying to clean this, but again, I'm trying not to just bore you guys to tears with simple stuff like the cleaning and whatnot. But I will share the secret here is denatured alcohol, and that stuff works like magic on old kerosene residue. I don't know what that was. It's fall here, so I think it has a pecan that just dropped down. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour some of this denatured alcohol into here. And I'm also gonna get a bit on my rag here too, because we're going to try to clean some of this old residue here. But the idea is to see how much we can remove of this without removing the paint, because it does a good job of pulling off the gummy residue, but it will also do a good job of removing the paint. So you have to be kind of careful and kind of quick with it so you don't remove too much. So like I said, this video is more really about kind of changing the wick than it is really doing a whole lot of other things. I'm just kind of whirling this around in here. It'll probably take a few minutes or so for it to soften up all those deposits. So I'm probably going to spin this around. We'll let the camera rest for a minute, and then we'll come back. Well, if I'm not careful, I'm going to end up relocating the entire shop out here. So what I'm doing here is trying to get rid of any kind of crusty buildup on the edge here. That would make the wick hard to move up and down. The wick razors on these are reasonably robust, but you don't want to have to stress them any more than have to, because obviously we're going to get a replacement. So what I'd always do is try to make sure that this tube is as cleaned off as possible. All this kind of discolored stuff here, all these dark marks, that's all like it's just varnished kerosene is really what it is. It doesn't take much to get it off, and it gives the a wick a much smoother surface to operate on right up and down. And you can get those deposits off with a denatured alcohol, but you're going to be there a long time. So what I'm using here is I'm using a brass brush. So it's brass on brass, so you're not going to really have a whole lot of issues of damaging anything. You can see that it's not harming it at all. And we'll just wipe off the rest of this debris here. See if we got to go over it again. And also, just kind of feel it. Here I can feel there's maybe a little bit still, so I'm going to scrub on it a little bit. But it comes off really pretty fast. As long as it feels smooth, then it will operate smoothly. Yeah, I know you people are going to probably comment, it's like, man, why aren't you cleaning the fount up? Yeah, I will. It's not right now. I just want to kind of get this thing working. I've got a birthday planned for my mom, and it's going to be a little cool on the patio, so I wanted to get this thing working, and I might do a little bit of cleanup after this. But the other thing too was trying to get a video out for you guys here, and the other deal is that with the holidays coming up, my video schedule may change a bit, so we may or may not see weekly videos. I'll see what I can do, but right now that's a little up in the air. So let's see if there's anything we can do with this. Yeah, see, this could use a little bit of a scrub it up too, which will keep it from getting stuck, because these can get stuck in there. But again, heat is your friend, and if you heat these, you will get that this varnish, this gum deposits to soften with the heat, and then you'll be able to slowly get it out of there. The first time that I pulled it out, it really felt like I was just turning it in molasses because it was so gummed up. But now it just goes right in there, spins really easy, comes right out. So that's good. So let's see what we've done with our denatured alcohol rinse here. Yeah, that's quite a bit of scuzz removed. So yeah, that's all that the varnish and stuff like that that's coming loose. It looks pretty. It looks okay. It's still. I mean, I'm gonna test with my handle here to see how gummy this still is. There's still some in there, obviously, but not sure how we're gonna be able to get it all out. especially in the amount of time I've given myself to do this in. So yeah, we're not gonna overthink this too much. So at this point, we're really ready to go ahead and put the wick in. Once the wick goes in, we got to wait about an hour for once we get kerosene in there for that to be drawn up, and then we can light it. Otherwise, we have this, well, the wick will be dry. You'll be burning the wick, and you won't really be burning kerosene. One thing I probably need to do here too, get this scrubbed, because again, we want to have this operate as easily and smoothly as possible. I've already done some cleaning on this. I actually threw this whole thing in the ultrasonic, and it's pretty clean, but I figured I'd give it another shot after this ran a little bit to see if anything else wants to come off, and it really doesn't. A little bit of surface discoloration on it, but other than that, pretty good. Kind of wipe this around a little bit since I can. Yeah. Okay. So, new wick. These are pretty easy to get online. They're still made in England. They come pre-charred. That's why they have this kind of brown appearance to them. That's what you want. And you just basically pull out these great big wick tabs, and then you work it back down in there. But you can see on this one, it has the liner inside of it, and that's what it's supposed to be, and that's what the other one didn't have. So I'm gonna crank my wick razor up to its maximum height, like this, and you basically align these buttons up with where the wick razor will be, which will be there. So we're basically going to set it down like this. So this is always a bit of the interesting bit, because you kind of have to fiddle-faddle with it a little bit to get it to go. I found on some lanterns they're a little bit challenging. On the inside of this, you want to make sure that you don't catch the edge of that liner. See, that went in really nice. If you catch the edge of the liner, you'll wrinkle it, and then you'll permanently create excess drag in the on the inside of the wick there. So I'm just pulling my the arms out here because I was just shoving it down, not paying attention to what I was doing. So we got the arms out on the right side, so we can continue working the wick down. That's one on there, and that's one on there. So we've got both arms engaged with the buttons on both sides, and we've got the wick clear of everything. So now when I turn this, we'll set it down so you can see it, but when I turn this, you'll see that the wick is going down nicely. Just like that. Beautiful. Okay, so the next step is to we'll get this flame spreader in there, and then we will get this in here. And we'll tighten that down. And now we've got a nicely installed wick. So here, as we try to hold this steady, but you can see wick comes up nice and easy, and also retracts nice and easy. This is a massive change from how it operated previously. It was a real struggle to get it up and down. So I think what I'm going to do here is we're going to go ahead and park this one, and we'll probably do a second one on a light up. I may actually take this inside now that I've kind of embarrassed myself enough with it to actually clean this up, because it does look pretty bad. So we may go ahead and do that, but for the next installment, be looking for the light up of this, and we'll show you how the Blue Flame Aladdin works. So until next time, keep them lit.